Hello everyone, His Royal Fan is here and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are continuing the How to Play series in the T110E3. This is where I show you 3 consecutive games in a tank, I break down my thought process and the decisions I made during those games, and hopefully by relaying this information to you, I'll be able to help you out as players in your E3 as well. So, before we jump into those games, I want to just discuss the biggest misconception about this vehicle, which is you can play it like a heavy tank, and this is completely wrong. I myself am guilty of playing the E3 like a heavy tank. It just doesn't work because this vehicle does not have the hit points of a heavy tank right now. It does not have the turret that a heavy tank has or the mobility. And it really restricts how flexible this tank can be in certain situations, especially when you're fighting against heavy tanks. And yes, you can fulfill some heavy tank roles in the E3, but you'll find that you're much better as a heavy tank support vehicle where you can actually use your heavy tanks for what they're supposed to do, let them take the shots and everything, and just support them aggressively. You don't have to be sniping at the back of the map. I don't recommend that, but supporting them, but don't be the one that pushes in. I made a lot of mistakes when I first started playing this vehicle, and I had to kind of work it out with some of my clanmates giving me some tips for this vehicle, and now I feel confident enough to do how to play on it. So, with that out of the way, let's discuss the equipment I'm also running on this vehicle right now. I would say it's really important to run the gun rammer. I originally ran calibrated shells, as is my habit, and honestly that did not work out too well until my clanmates told me to switch to rammer, and I'm very happy I listened to their advice. I started performing a lot better with the rammer, so everything else though is just subjective to what you like on this vehicle. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the first game. Alright, so for this first game, we are going to be on Middleburg, and I'm going straight up towards the hill because that is where my team wants to go during this game. Now, it is supremacy, which means going town actually isn't a terrible idea. However, since the majority of my team wanted to go hill, I decided I'm going to go with them because the worst thing you can do with an E3 is get yourself isolated from your team. You will get killed extremely fast. You don't have the mobility or the turret to be flexible in a solo situation, so tip number 1, always stick with your team if you can help it. And let's discuss this game because right away, this game is very bizarre. The enemy medium and light vehicles are just YOLOing straight into our spawn from the town, which is great for me because where I am right now, it's perfect. There's hills in front of me, I can stay hull down, and I just need to sit and spawn pretty much and use our K91 as bait. So our poor K91 just is getting YOLO'd by tank after tank. He didn't even make it out of spawn. However, it's going to work well for me and this waffle that is supporting with me because we can provide great cover fire and start deleting the vehicles that push onto them. I'm not going to push down yet because their whole team went into the town. That's pretty evident. And by pushing myself into the town as well, I would really be exposing myself, especially since I'm not exactly sure where their whole team is split up. So I'm just going to hold here. This hill is perfect, and it is hull down. And you should always aim to find a hull down position with your E3 if you can help it. Now, a heat shell hits the ground right in front of me, and I have a feeling it's probably the Gorilla 15, and he does get spotted up behind me, which is why I'm happy I didn't push in just yet, because I may have taken, 600 plus out damage in that situation. And now I'm just going to hold here. So this is the difference between a heavy tank and an E3. If I was a strong heavy tank like the IS-4 or the E100, I would push up towards the town and start engaging these heavy tanks in front of me. However, since I'm an E3, I do not have that turret. I cannot side scrape around the buildings, and I would have to expose my drive wheels every time I wanted to put a shot into the enemy team, which means that by YOLOing in right now without sufficient support, I would probably get myself killed or lose a lot of HP. I'm just waiting at the moment to see what the enemy team does and how my team is going to push up on them. And now I see an opportunity to start pushing up because the Waffenträger is going in. So since he's pushing up, he's going to help take the attention off of me because he's a Waffenträger. Let's be honest, everyone wants to shoot HE ammunition at the Waffenträger, and I feel confident now pushing up towards the town because I know I'm not going to be the primary target. Everyone's going to want to nuke our waffle, and as dirty as it sounds, I know full well that he's probably going to lose a ton of HP and be the prioritized target here, which leaves me free to start working on these heavy tanks and not worry so much about what that gorilla is doing. I do take a shot there, and I'm backing up really fast here because I just wanted to make sure that grill didn't shoot me. But now that our waffle is a one-shot, I have a feeling that the grill is going to try and push up on the waffle to pick up the kill. So I'm just going to sit here pre-aiming for this grill, and this poor grill is going to make the very big mistake of sitting there in front of me. And we're going to put a very juicy HE shell, slapping it right in his face for 1200 damage. And the Waffle picks up the kill. So a little bit of good teamwork there. Now, a fun fact, you can HE T57 heavies straight through the side. You don't even need to hit the engine deck. If you hit right in the dead center of the side when it's flat to you, most 100+ millimeter HE shells will go straight through the side. So you learned something new. If you did not know that, then definitely if you're running your TDs, you can use HE there if it's at the right angle. I love doing that to T57 heavies. Now this game was really fast and pretty easy. The enemy team just pushed straight into our spawn, right into an E3 that was hauled down. There was nothing they could really do about that, and the rest of my team pushed into the town and worked really well together. All that I can say about this game is, really, I didn't push in, and that was pretty important, because if I had pushed in sooner, I would have probably put myself in a crossfire with that grill and those heavy tanks, and maybe have got myself killed in that game. So a little bit more passive there, and waiting for the right opportunity to push in, which is really important with the T110E3. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the second game, and we're going to be on Canyon, and I'm going to play this game a little bit unusual for Canyon, because what a lot of people don't expect is an E3 to go straight towards the middle of the map. However, you can never underestimate the importance of maintaining the middle on this map. This is the most key position on this entire map, in my opinion, and what I saw was no one on my team was really headed this way. We only had one tier 9 medium tank. However, since I'm an E3, and by looking at the enemy's lineup, they had 3 tier 9 German heavy tanks. Very easy to spot, very easy to shoot, and they would have a lot of difficulty penning me, and I do get a good shot onto the E75. Now, the only tank here that can really contest me in the middle of the map is the 121B. Not really concerned about him. He only has 7 degrees of gun depression. He doesn't have the most penetration in the world as well. So as long as I stick to this side of the map, I should be relatively safe. However, I'm not going to push over and try shooting at him, because by doing that, I would really be exposing myself to their tank destroyers. And when you're playing the middle on Canyon, it is so important for you to understand where their tank destroyers may be. If they're not spotted, assume they could be anywhere in front of me. Wherever my screen is looking, they could be in any of these hills in front of me. And I'm angling out my tank here, and I do take an HE shell to the side there, which was a pretty good shot. But now I know, okay, they have at least 1 tank destroyer on my left, plus 2 heavy tanks there. The Foch is spotted on my right. I'm not really concerned with him right now, because he's a little bit distracted with my team that is pushing up to the right-hand side of the map, which is why I'm just going to ignore him for now. All I want to do here is just sit here and really distract the enemy team, because by sitting here, they're going to prioritize me and not my whole team that's spread across the A cap. And I do bounce a 500, and that was a KPFZ 70 that bounced me right there. And we know, okay, the 268 is now spotted up on the right hand side, which leads me to realize that the SU-122-54 is the only tank destroyer with these German heavy tanks on the left hand side. So now I know where their TDs are, and I can start using this position a little bit more flexibly. And I'm just going to pull back first, because I can see the Foch is exposed. He's the lowest HP target on the enemy team. He's also a tank destroyer. Want to prioritize him. We're going to load up the APCR, put a shot through him, and just pull forward. He's a one shot. He's pretty much useless now, and he's definitely going to pull back into cover after getting shot by me. And now I'm going to go back up the hill. And what you're going to realize here is, when I go back up the hill, I'm keeping my tank angled forward. You see what the Mouseman is doing? He's kind of angled to the right, exposing himself a little bit. What I'm doing here is I'm angling myself a little bit to the left, which is great, because I bounced the SU there. I knew that they would have tanks along that side of the map, and I did not want to expose my sides to those vehicles. And I haven't even bothered really shooting at this 121B yet. I need to wait till I know where these heavy tanks in this SU are, or wait until they're distracted. Now, I saw the SU pulled back behind the hill, so I'm going to snap a shot into this 121B. It is pretty important to kill him in this situation, because he is spotting up my whole team on the A side of the map, which is not very good, considering how the enemy team is sprawled out sniping. If the 121B can just sit there uncontested, he's doing what I'm doing. He's taking the attention of my team, and he's also spotting up those vehicles on the opposite end of the map. Our Moishin, I guess, proper pronunciation. I know someone's going to mention that in the comments. So the Moishin is taking some shots, and he really should be pulling back now. I'm going to put a shot on the E75. And obviously the KPFZ is spotted flanking up towards our left. I'm not too concerned about him just yet. I can see the Moishin is going back to engage him. He's not going to push on me. I still want to prioritize this 121B, who makes the big mistake of pulling forward and gets double tapped by me and this T57 Heavy. Good job to that 57 Heavy. He actually does a pretty good job in this game. covering that side of the map and not getting himself killed. But now they have no middle map control, which means I'm free to start pushing back on the KPFZ-70. Our Moishin is trying to be a Malabracker right now by reverse driving and making his tank a little weird. I'm going to put a shot into the KPZ, and here's a pretty important moment for me is I realize my whole right side is exposed. So what I do here is I actually pull up just a little bit. I know I'm not as hull down versus the KPZ-70, but by pulling up, I can guarantee that I'm not going to get shot in this side. And our Moishin, who was not paying attention and pulled back a little bit too far, he actually took a big shot in this side. And that is something important when it comes to playing the T110E3, is you have to understand that people are going to take positions based on how you place yourself in the vehicle. They're going to want to get to your sides, or they're going to want to flank around and try shooting you from an angle where they can pen you easily. And I was able to read that, hold on, none of my teammates were spotting at the right-hand side, which means the enemy team was very likely to push up on me from that angle, which is why I pushed up there, and thankfully I was not able to take any big hits because I did that. Now, the 268 gets spotted up, so now we know where all three of their team is. I'm semi-hull down here. The E75 is going to get a really weird shot. He's actually going to bounce pen into the top of my tank, I believe. Yeah, so he hit the top of my turret and somehow bounced it into the lower half of my cupola, which was very interesting. We're going to pick up the kill in the SU-12254 here, and the game's over. I'm going to fluff my kill shot here. But what I really want to mention about this game in particular was how I was able to help maintain map control in this situation. The E3 is perfect for this, but when it comes to playing a position like in the middle, you definitely need to be aware of where those TDs may be, and don't just push blindly onto the tank in front of you and expose your sides. I see so many people make that mistake, and it can really screw over games. So 6.9k damage nearly, a pretty damn good game if I say so myself, and we're just going to jump right on into the third battle, where we're also going to play a similar role for the team. Now, we are on Port Bay, and honestly I see so many people play this map wrong, especially from the south spawn. Now the Vickers CR on our team is actually from a pretty decent clan, and he's going to take corner, so I'm happy knowing that we have a decent player going to the right hand side of the map, and I want to support this Vickers CR if possible. Now initially, I'm just stopping here to see if I can pre-aim their vehicles if they go for a crossing, but unfortunately, they are not going for a crossing, which is a smart move by them not to just YOLO blindly across into the corner. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to push up, and here's the biggest mistake people make. They stop right here, right where my tank is right now. They do not push over this hill, and that is a terrible idea. I've seen it happen so many times. You have medium tanks take the corner of the map, and your heavy tanks and TDs just sit back. What this IS-4 is doing right now is perfectly good. He's pushing himself up appropriately. I'm pushing up appropriately to cover him as well, and it can make a huge difference in this map, because when you do not push up towards the C hill on this map, what happens is their team, who are much more comfortable pushing towards the seaside just because of how the map is made, they'll just push up across and kill your medium and lights in the corner, and you lose all map control, and it is just not a good situation. So I cannot emphasize this enough. If you have medium tanks going right, you need to get your team to push up towards the C cap at all costs, especially on the south spawn. It is a much bigger issue on the south spawn than the north spawn, just because of how the map is shaped. So I'm just sitting here and I'm hull down. I'm sure you've noticed already that pretty much every game I have gone for a hull down position, because that is what the E3 is great at. You have very weak drive wheels with the E3. I didn't really mention that yet, but if you even slightly angle your tank out and someone shoots you in the drive wheel, they're going to do a full penetration and take your tracks off. Something you need to be aware of. And I'm not going to play this game perfectly. I'm going to be straightforward with you. I'm not going to play this perfectly. However, in this situation, the IS-4 actually made a really good play. He saw that they were losing the corner of the map, and he pushed up, and now me and this IS-4 have created a crossfire with this IS-7, because he went up top, and the IS-7's prioritizing him. I am going to make a mistake here and not shoot an APCR round, when honestly, I should have just loaded APCR to guarantee the pen, just so he can become a one-shot, and unfortunately, I missed my shot there, and the T-55A tracks me, and I take a huge hit there, and now I'm a little annoyed. I've lost almost all of my hit points here to this T-55A, who puts another great shot into me. He's doing a very effective job. I'm very annoyed at him. I'm waiting to see when this IS-7 shoots, and he dies, and now it is time for me to get revenge on this T-55A. We're going to load a high explosive shell and just yoink it straight into his side and delete his tank. Now, what I want to mention about this game specifically is how quickly you can lose your hit points in E3. You saw there, I made a couple of small mistakes by poking over this hill in a not so intelligent manner, and I lost all of my hit points, just like that. And that is what I mean when I say you cannot play the E3 like a heavy tank, because now I am in a very poor position on health, I could get HE'd easily. However, I decided I would like the HE the E4 instead, and he's going to lose 1,300 hit points there, which is a little bit unfortunate for him. I do love the high explosive ammunition on the E3. You can really use it in a lot of situations. The T110E3 is running away, so I do not have to worry about him right now. I'm going to focus on the E100. We're going to catch him on fire and kill him. So a pretty good game so far in terms of damage. Now, back to what I was saying about how quickly you can lose hit points in this vehicle, I made one primary error of pushing on the I-7 where I bounced the shot, and I lost a ton of hit points for that. And if I was in a heavy tank, sure, I would have lost probably the same amount of hit points, but the difference is I have so much more health. I'd probably still have, almost 1,000 hit points right now if I was in a super heavy, and that is the difference. So when you play aggressively in this tank, you make one mistake, you're going to lose a lot of hit points, and then it makes your game very difficult. And if you can just be a little bit more passive in the vehicle, support your team like I did. I supported my IS-4 really well there, and he supported me as well. But what you need to do is you need to play it intelligently. Now we pick up a nice kill on that T982, another 6,300 damage game. For 3 consecutive games that went really well in the E3. I've been having a lot of fun in this tank, and in fact, we're going to have a 4th game today just for fun. It's not going to be a consecutive battle. This was on a different day, but it was a fun game, and I figured, why not include it, because it seems like people enjoy the longer videos on a whole. So we're going to jump right into the last game of this video, which is going to be on Normandy. And once again, I am pushing up to a haul down position on the map. I'm going straight towards the windmill, right in the middle. It's a very strong position for the E3 if your team plays properly, and by looking at what my team is doing, most of them are coming to the middle with me, with a couple going up top, which is great. I do not mind that at all, and I'm just going to pull straight forward. Now, when I pull up here, I'm not going to just YOLO over. I bounce 545 APCR round. I know it's a 704. I know what bush he has to be in to hit me like that at the start of the game. And I'm going to be straightforward with you, that shot definitely pens, and yeah, so the 704 takes a huge hit right there, blind at the start of the game. I'm sure he regrets at this point shooting at me, especially when he didn't have a good shot. I was hold down there. And now the 268 makes a slightly questionable play here. He pushed up very aggressively. I would not recommend doing what that 268 did. Pushing up towards that middle section where you have no cover around you, because when you run into something like an E3 that is haul down, you have to take a really long time to back up, and this 268 has already lost over 1,200 hit points for pushing up there. I'm sure he regrets that decision a little bit, and I'm just going to hold down here for a moment. Now, I know at this point, because the in-game damage ribbons tell me I blind fired something, I'm just going to take another shot where I think that 704 may be. It turns out he did move back a little bit after he got shot once. I'm sure he decided, you know what, I'm not going to poke there again. And what are we doing here? Alright, look at the mini-map. We're getting way overmatched on the right side. I want to start pressuring these vehicles on the right, because now I'm not too concerned about vehicles playing up on my left. We're going to start by focusing this E100. We're going to put a nice shot into him. We are haul down. And this is a situation where you can kind of play like a heavy tank here. I'm kind of in a heavy tank role, because I am haul down, and it's difficult for these tanks to get good shots at me. I'm going to push up top and put a shot into this E100 again. Now, I would not always recommend pushing up top there because tank destroys. However, the 268 was spotted in the mid, and I knew I shot the 704 way in the left, which means there's no tanks in their spawn to shoot at me, and now I'm backing up to the right. I know their team's going to poke around on the right, and we see the E75 here. I'm going to put a shot into him, and a fun little trick in the E3 that I'm sure a lot of people are aware of, but I still like to mention it. It is counter-angling your tank up a hill. So you see what I'm doing here. I'm actually slightly wedging my tank up on this hill, and I'm actually going to get a very nice HE shot into that Vickers for a full pen. And by wiggling my tank back and forth up the hill, because the E3 has a very rounded lower plate, what I'm doing is I'm increasing the thickness of the lower plate on my vehicle. This E75 is really struggling to penetrate me. So a very handy tip, if you have a tank right in front of you, and you have even the smallest hill behind you, gently angle it up a little bit, back and forth, back and forth. Do not over angle it, because when you over angle it, you make the roof of your tank weak. So it's good to keep it moving back and forth just so they don't have a reliable shot on your roof or your lower plate, and you can really facilitate a lot of bounces by doing that. Now, A75 gets deleted. The Vickers light is going to get killed. I am hungry for damage here. I'm going to pop that engine boost, and we're just going to YOLO straight into the 704. Here's where I'm being very aggressive, and since the E3 can go 40 kilometers an hour speed boost, we're going to ram him. I'm just going to side hug the 704 for now until the E100 can pick up the kill, just so I don't take a shot in the side here. I'm just holding him there. E100 picks up the kill, and we are going to continue the YOLO train straight onto the Sheridan. So This was a pretty quick game, over 7,000 damage, pretty straightforward and easy, just fun E3 stuff, and this is really what the tank is capable of if you have a good situation in the vehicle where you're haul down and the enemy team kind of pushes straight into you, but not around you. Little 101 on how to wedge vehicles out. Just wedge yourself up into cover and push them out like this, Sheridan. That way they can't get behind you. So, GG. Now, let me recap the E3 real quick. So, with this vehicle, you need to remember you are not a heavy tank, and you should not play it like a heavy tank. Play it as a heavy support vehicle. You can fulfill some heavy tank roles, but do not be too aggressive. Let me tell you a little story about the E3 while we end this off, because with the T110E3, my first 20 games, I won 25% with 3.5k average damage, okay? That is hideous, and I really needed to ask my clanmate Fadu, who's much better in the E3, hey, what am I doing wrong here? I'm doing damage, but I'm not winning, and we platooned some games, and he explained to me that I was being way too aggressive in the vehicle. I was being a heavy tank when really, it's okay to be a little bit passive. You don't need to rely fully on your armor, because when all you rely on is your armor, you're not going to perform as well. So thank you so much to the advice given by Fadu. It really helped me improve my E3 gameplay. Now I'm at almost 3.8k and 70% in the vehicle at about 80 games in. So I was really able to fix my stats. And I just wanted to mention that because people seem to think sometimes that I'm just always good at tanks. No. A lot of vehicles, I really have to learn their playstyle, and sometimes I even need to ask for help to really learn a vehicle, such as the E3, especially since I'm a medium tank player, so these slower, heavily armored vehicles tend to get to me. So that is today's video. I do have one real quick public service announcement to make about the channel and the community. I have finally opened a Patreon. I know, it's pretty exciting. I took a long time to make it. I've had people ask me about this for months now. I finally opened up a Patreon, so if you would like to further support the channel and myself, I would really appreciate it. However, only support me if you absolutely want to and you can afford to. There will be a link down in the description. Alright, we are done with today's video. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. You guys are awesome, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.